In Five Nights at Freddy's, the first game presents its animatronics as malfunctioning performers, but as the larger story unfolds across sequels and hidden minigames, it becomes increasingly clear that they are not simply broken machines. The main four animatronics, Freddy Fazbear, Bonnie the Bunny, Chica the Chicken, and Foxy the Pirate Fox, are heavily implied to be possessed by the spirits of murdered children. Their aggression is not random malfunction, but rather the result of tragedy and revenge tied to a larger crime committed by William Afton. The foundational event in the lore is known among fans as the Missing Children Incident. Several children were lured away during operating hours at the restaurant by a man wearing a mascot costume, later revealed to be William Afton. He used the suits as a disguise to gain their trust. After murdering them, their bodies were hidden inside the animatronic suits. This act created the conditions for possession. The children's souls, unable to move on, became bound to the machines that concealed their bodies. The animatronics' strange behavior after hours is therefore not mere programming error, but restless spirits seeking justice. Freddy Fazbear stands as the central figure and symbolic face of the restaurant. Visually, he resembles a brown bear animatronic wearing a small black top hat and bow tie, holding a microphone as if perpetually mid-performance. His friendly mascot design contrasts sharply with his behavior after hours. Unlike the others, Freddy grows more active as the nights progress, often remaining still for long stretches before becoming an almost inescapable threat. Freddy Fazbear is generally believed to be possessed by a child named Gabriel. Although the first game does not explicitly state names, later lore materials and supplementary content strongly imply these identities. Gabriel's spirit inhabits the central mascot, which is fitting symbolically. Freddy is the face of the establishment, the one most associated with the brand, and therefore becomes the vessel for one of the primary victims. This possession explains Freddy's calculating nature. He is not wildly aggressive at first, but grows more active as the nights progress, almost as though observing the guard before deciding whether he is a threat. Some interpretations suggest that the children attack night guards because they mistake them for their killer, unable to distinguish between adults in security uniforms. Freddy's calm but inescapable approach may reflect a spirit that has endured suffering and now acts with determined intent rather than chaotic rage. Bonnie the Bunny is typically the first animatronic to move. Purple in color and carrying a guitar, Bonnie's friendly performer appearance dissolves quickly once gameplay begins. Bonnie the Bunny is commonly associated with a child named Jeremy. Bonnie's early aggression in the gameplay parallels the idea that Jeremy's spirit may be among the most restless or aware. Bonnie is also symbolically linked to William Afton, because Afton used a spring-lock rabbit suit to commit his crimes. That visual parallel between rabbit imagery and murder creates a haunting irony. One rabbit character becomes the killer's disguise, while another rabbit character houses a victim seeking retribution. Bonnie's frequent staring into cameras, his direct confrontations at the office door, and his silent presence create the impression of a spirit that is intensely focused. Rather than wandering aimlessly, he appears driven. Chica the Chicken operates similarly to Bonnie in mechanical terms, but carries her own identity and thematic nuance. Yellow and bib-wearing with the phrase "celebrating food" printed across it, Chica approaches primarily from the right side of the office. She often appears in the kitchen area, where the camera feed goes dark, leaving only audio cues to signal her presence. Chica the Chicken is widely believed to be possessed by a child named Susie. Later narrative hints suggest that Susie may have been the first victim of William Afton, which adds emotional weight to Chica's presence. If she was indeed the first, her spirit's attachment to the suit marks the beginning of the haunting cycle. Chica's association with the kitchen and her bib referencing food creates tragic contrast. A character designed to entertain children with birthday parties and pizza becomes the prison of a murdered child. Her open beak and fixed gaze amplify the unsettling effect, as though she is eternally frozen in a silent scream. Some expanded interpretations suggest that Susie was lured with promises related to her pet, reinforcing the manipulative cruelty of Afton's methods. Foxy the Pirate Fox differs radically from the rest of the cast in both design and mechanics. Hidden behind curtains in a separate cove area, Foxy does not follow the same wandering route. Instead, he must be monitored regularly to prevent him from becoming active. Foxy the Pirate Fox is often linked to a child named Fritz. Foxy's tattered appearance and isolation behind the curtain have prompted many symbolic interpretations. Unlike the others, Foxy begins hidden from the main stage, as if removed or forgotten. This separation mirrors the idea of a child who may have felt isolated even in life. Foxy's sudden sprint down the hallway represents explosive anger rather than patient calculation. His behavior feels less controlled, more impulsive, suggesting a spirit driven by intense emotion. The need to constantly monitor him in order to keep him calm reinforces the idea that neglect or lack of attention fuels his aggression. There is also a fifth presence connected to the original tragedy, Golden Freddy. Golden Freddy appears as a ghostly, slumped version of Freddy, manifesting unpredictably and breaking the normal rules of gameplay. He is widely believed to house the spirit of a child named Cassidy, though some interpretations suggest multiple spirits may be involved. Golden Freddy's appearances are more supernatural than mechanical. He fades in and out of reality, crashes the game environment, and behaves less like a physical animatronic and more like a manifestation of pure spiritual energy. This reinforces the idea that Golden Freddy represents a particularly powerful or vengeful soul. In later narrative developments, Cassidy is often depicted as the spirit most unwilling to forgive William Afton, trapping him in torment beyond death. Together, the lore transforms the animatronics from simple horror antagonists into tragic figures. They are not evil by nature, but are children who were murdered and need justice. Their nightly attacks stem from confusion and rage. They do not understand that the security guard is not their killer. Instead, they act on fragmented memory and trauma. The pizzeria becomes a haunted space not because of random curse, but because of unresolved violence. What makes the animatronics in Five Nights at Freddy's particularly effective is how little explicit narrative is given. Their motivations are implied rather than stated, encouraging interpretation. Whether viewed as haunted machines, corrupted mascots, or metaphors for guilt and consequence, each animatronic contributes a distinct emotional texture to the experience. Freddy's intelligence, Bonnie's confrontation, Chica's unpredictability, and Foxy's explosive speed combine to form a horror system that is less about sudden shocks and more about sustained psychological strain. The result is a tightly constructed ensemble where each character is essential, not only to gameplay mechanics, but to the atmosphere of dread that defines the entire experience. The emotional weight of this backstory deepens the experience of the first game. What initially appears to be a survival challenge against rogue robots slowly reveals itself to be a story of grief, vengeance, and the consequences of unchecked cruelty. Each animatronic carries the identity of a lost child, and their mechanical performances during the day contrast with their desperate movements at night. The stage lights hide a massacre, the cheerful songs mask suffering. And the slow approach of Freddy down a dark hallway becomes more than a gameplay mechanic. It becomes the echo of a crime that refuses to be forgotten.